If I offered you a 5% average rate of return over 2 years, would you take me up on the offer? You are listening to Wealth Talks. Today on Wealth Talks, you're going to get to hear about an example of average rate of return versus actual rate of return. And we're going to talk about some different features of life insurance and the history behind it. You are going to enjoy this. Ben, it's great to have you here in the studio again today.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
And today, you want to dive right into that rate of return example. Would you take me up on a 5% average rate of return?
I would pass.
Why?
Well, I do this example when I'm speaking to a live group. It's a lot of fun. It's really eye-opening, and it's very enlightening. Let's say it this way. So let's just do it right now. Hey, you listening to this there, do you have a $100 bill in your pocket or your dresser drawer or somewhere laying around? Or could you go get one out of the bank? That's great. Now that we have your $100 bill, would you like a 5% average rate of return on that $100 bill? I'll give you one if you'd like it. And so if you would like it, just hand it to me, and I will take it and I'll set it right here in front of me under my microphone. And I will give you a 5% average rate of return on your $100. Now, it would be kind of inconvenient to wait 2 years and see what happens for this example, so let's just speed it up and we'll do it over 2 minutes. The important part is that it's 2 periods. I don't care whether it's minutes, hours, days, months, weeks, years, except for the case of this illustration. We want it to go by fairly quickly. And the sooner you get your money back, the happier you'll be, right? And your 5% average rate of return. So let's get started. I'm going to take your $100 bill and I'm going to set it over here across the desk and move it from under my microphone. And I'm going to put it out for an investment. Now, I'm pretty sure I can make money on this investment. Now, I better be making money with your $100 or I'm going to be out of pocket when I go to pay you back. And so I have it working over there, and at the end of the first minute, I analyze the investment to see how I did with your money, and I find out that I messed up. But this is unfortunate because I lost 50% of the account value. Now, 50% of $100 doesn't take a genius to figure out that I lost $50. Exactly half of what you entrusted with me. Don't worry one bit, though. I promised you 5% average rate of return, and I'm going to pay you a 5% average rate of return, even if it costs me money. So you have nothing to worry about. The only person that has anything to worry about is me, because right now, it's a negative 50%.
That's no good. You got a lot of making up to do.
Let me see what I can do. Just give me a minute. I've got this $50 back under my microphone here. And I'm going to do a different investment. And I'm pretty sure this investment has even better odds of returning me some money. And so I put the $50 over in a different place on the desk and see what happens. After the minute's up, I'm going to go look at that account and see how we did. And lo and behold, it finally came through. It did make a return for me, and the return was bigger than what I lost. I'm extremely happy right now. You don't have anything to worry about still. I promised you a 5% average rate of return. Looking at the investment returns, I see that I did a positive 60 with your money. And so I bring all that money back here under the microphone. And now I need to do a little tally on this sheet of paper here and figure out how we're doing. Have I made a 5% average rate of return with your money yet? And so I put the negative 50% down here, and that turned your money into $50. And then I made 60. So I put the positive 60% here, and 60% of $50 is $30. And so now I have $80 sitting here under the microphone. Let's do the math on these returns and see what we're averaging right now. Negative 50, positive 60. put those numbers together, and I get a positive 10%. Now, we did this over 2 periods, so I need to divide that return by 2. I divide the 10% by 2, and lo and behold, 5% average rate of return. Delightful. That turned out exactly how I hoped it would. I can pay you your 5% average rate of return. Here's your $80 back. Thank you for letting me use your $100 bill. You have just earned a 5% average rate of return.
But you have also earned a negative 20% return.
Actual rate of
Or
return.
lost 20% if you like to look at it that way.
So how can you earn a 5% average rate of return and lose money?
Because it's average.
And that's the critical difference right there between average and actual returns. So here's my question for you. Thank you for letting me use that $100. I'm sorry you only have 80 of it, but I did give you a positive average rate of return like I promised. Would you prefer to have a 0% rate of return on your money?
In this case, I sure would.
And so likely would you. And so here's another $20. You have your $100 back. You only earned a 0% average rate of return, and that makes you a whole lot happier than earning 5% average rate of return.
Absolutely. So what happened here? This example, that's the average rate of return versus actual rate of return. But everybody in the investment world talks about average rate of return. What can I get in this investment? They talk about an 8% average rate of return, 10% average rate of return, 12% average rate of return. But what does that number mean? Really? It means nothing.
It may mean less than nothing.
In this particular case, it sure did. So when it comes to rate of return, you have to look at what's called the actual rate of return. In life insurance, there is no participating whole life insurance. We don't have an actual rate of return that we can put on the policy every single year, but you can figure one backwards. When you do that based on the cash flow, it's called an internal rate of return. Same thing as an actual rate of return. What would you have actually had to earn every single year on that money to arrive at the cash value that you have right now?
So write down those 2 words if you need to, or at least scorch them into your memory so that you can always ask or question or discover whether they're talking about an average or actual rate of return, because the difference is huge. If you had made a 5% actual rate of return in that example, you would have made $5. The other thing you can do is you can memorize this example, and you can do it to somebody, I was going to say your friend, but maybe somebody you're not all that too fond of. You could win $20 of lunch money off them. Everything is fair, square, and above board. You go back, you listen to this podcast again, you'll see that I did not make a single mistake in the way I described it. I gave you exactly what I promised. Was it 100% honest? Absolutely. Was it 100% deceitful? Absolutely, yes.
But just remember, you have to have a securities license to sell investments.
Oh, yes.
Maybe that's why.
Yes. Okay, so we've talked about life insurance providing an internal rate of return, which is kind of equivalent to an actual rate of return. But there's a lot of people running around out there chasing average rates of return.
Sure enough.
Because they don't
sure
understand them. So let's talk a little bit about knowledge and understanding, because I think those are 2 of the most critical things that are lacking in the financial world when people are seeking to grow or increase their wealth.
Knowledge and understanding. So the knowledge is absolutely important, because if you don't have the knowledge, then where do you start? You don't know where to start. And so sometimes that comes through formal education. Sometimes that comes through getting education beyond beyond the traditional sources of education. For example, a lot of financial principles are not taught in the school system anymore. So you can't depend on the school system to get your financial knowledge anymore. You have to go and find other information. You can get your information from the internet, but you can't believe everything that you read on the internet just because it has a quote and a picture by it.
That quote's attributed to Abraham Lincoln.
Before the internet was even around, huh?
Yeah, and that is a big missing part in the public education system. Pretty much nothing financial anymore. Even the math, which equates to just about anything financial, is dying.
It's kind of watered down with some of the principles, the way that they're teaching it now.
And some of you know our sister Gracine. She does some private tutoring because she likes to help kids that are behind to be able to get them ahead in the public school system. And she tutors for math. And she has the 6th grader she's tutoring right now who is struggling. And he's struggling because last year in math class, all he had to do was put an answer down. It didn't matter whether it was the right answer or not. As long as he filled in the box, he got credit for the problem.
Yeah, they were giving him credit for just trying. But it wasn't really trying.
It's absurd.
So if you make an answer up, put it down. It was a way to get by without working.
Clark County School District has a notorious reputation for being horrible. But if you can accept 2 plus 2 as being 5 and count that and credit that to the student, you're really doing the student a disservice. Because now they have no clue what 2 plus 2 actually is. Now, this good news is this kid is really bright. He's really smart. He's taking the information, and I'm pretty sure he's going to do well. He's probably going to pull ahead and do extremely well in math. But, if you get programmed wrong at the wrong age, it's tough to break a bad habit. And a lot of the people who are learning about a better way to manage their finances say, I wish I would have known about this earlier. Now, there's a twofold reason. If you know something and develop a habit of it, it becomes second nature. You don't even have to think about it. The other thing is that there's a lot of time that has been lost that can't be won back. If you've been doing the things the wrong way or less than ideal for a while, it's kind of sad to look back and realize the time that you wasted over that.
Certainly. So the knowledge is only one part of the solution, though, because it's been said that knowledge is learned, but wisdom is lived. And so you have to move on to the understanding part so that you know why that you're applying this knowledge. The knowledge is the how. If knowledge is the how, understanding is the why. Understanding, you have to look at the knowledge that you have, figure out how to apply it, where it makes sense to apply it, because not every single piece of information can be applied in every single way. And this is especially important in the day and age that we have so much information that is accessible on any topic. I mean, just do a Google search. There is a plethora of information out there, and it is expanding every single minute of every single day. The problem anymore is not information so much as it is finding the right information for the right time.
Information versus misinformation.
And that's part of the understanding phase. So it takes wisdom to do that. And part of that you will gain from experience. Part of it you can get by learning to ride a bicycle like with training wheels on. If you have training wheels, somebody walking by your side who has been there, done that before, it's kind of like having training wheels on your bicycle or having someone walk along behind holding the seat. It's a whole lot easier to learn what the balance is all about if they're there to kind of help guide you along than to try and do it all on your own. That's what the understanding is, and how we can come alongside you and help you with your financial gain so that you can achieve the balance and the dreams that you're looking for much faster.
Warren Buffett said something. He said that you want to know a lot. He wants to know a lot about a company before he invests in it. And that's where the knowledge portion comes in. And then he's going to apply that knowledge to understanding as well. Because your financial game should not be about get in, get out, get in, get out to make money. It should be about getting in and staying in to win the game. It's a long-term proposition. It's the tortoise and the hare fable. Mm-hmm. Where the rabbit runs a lot and takes a lot of naps. The tortoise, steady going, plodding along, but consistency is the key. He persists to the end of the race, and that's where you win the game.
Yes, and so the tortoise and the hare, that's such a popular story, and the investment world today kind of parallels the hare. And that's the lure of the investment world, is that people think that they can make it really big, but you can also lose a lot. The world acts in leaps and bounds. And things happen quickly, but you don't often see all the steady hard work that went in behind the scenes to make those big, great gains or the big losses what went through those? What happened behind the scenes to make those a big success?
Here's something else to consider. In the investment world, they put numbers before philosophy. And if you don't have a philosophy and you don't have a foundation, you really have no business dealing with numbers. Here's why I say that. In the example early on where you gave me a $100 bill and I gave you a 5% average rate of return on it, I returned you $20. I wasn't going to keep that money away from you. I was doing that to illustrate the difference between an actual and average. You see, it was teaching. You were gaining knowledge, you were understanding how this worked, and you could learn from that. In the financial world, finding's keeping, they say. And so if you sign up for something that you don't understand and you lose money, like you could have earlier with your 5% average rate of return, you don't get that money back. Whoever found you, whoever got you signed up gets to keep that money, wherever that goes. And so if you can gain knowledge and understand the philosophy of whatever it is that you're getting into, whether it be real estate, whether it be stock investing, option trading, even life insurance, which is an asset and a savings vehicle, it's important to understand it because there's some life insurance out there you wouldn't want your worst enemy to own. And we go over those policies both in podcasts, videos, blogs, those kinds of things. So if you don't know about those yet, you should go learn about the different types of life insurance policies.
And better yet, just give our office a call, get a strategy session. We'll walk you through those different things. Point out, write the information that you need to apply directly in your financial game. You can give us a call to do that. The number here is 702-660-7000.
Yeah, that's good. We do professional independent life insurance reviews, and I do some of those. I like doing them. Unfortunately, I don't see a lot of good policies coming through because the IUL, for example, is such a popular policy because everybody thinks that their returns can only be positive and never go negative. And that while that's true and nice, what they don't understand is that they have the cost of insurance taking bites out of the rear end of that policy and just killing it from the inside out. And so that is a really unforeseen iceberg in a lot of those policies. It's going to cause them to crash and burn. And so oftentimes by doing those professional reviews, we can save somebody's shirt before they lose it that way. So that's nice. But going back to the knowledge and understanding, our goal is to give you an understanding of how this works and what you need to know. Obviously, you don't need to know enough to be able to design a policy with our software, do an application, deal with the insurance company, underwrite. We take care of that for you. But there's a certain amount of fundamental knowledge that you should understand to be as successful as possible with it, and that's our goal.
That's right. So let's switch gears here and talk a little bit more about the life insurance. You mentioned the IUL stands for the Indexed Universal Life Insurance, not the kind we recommend. What are the different types of life insurance and which one is going to be the best for using in your financial game to build a good, solid foundation?
I tell everybody there's only two types of life insurance, and it makes it really easy to remember because you have two hands. So you just raise your left hand and you say term insurance, and then you raise your right hand and you say permanent insurance. That's it. There's only temporary insurance and there's only permanent insurance.
So what makes the good and bad kinds then?
Well, term insurance has different kinds in it, and the most expensive type of term insurance you can buy is called renewable term insurance. And it's sold on a yearly basis or maybe a 2-year renewable period, 5-year renewable period. And it's a stair-step premium. But it's the most expensive you can buy because your premium goes up every year.
Sure.
It's okay for somebody who's switching jobs and is going from one group coverage to another group coverage and they don't want to lose that coverage in the meantime. Maybe they buy a policy for a few months and then it can be inexpensive. It's here today, gone tomorrow. The better type of term insurance is a level premium, where it's level for 10, 15, or 20 years. You can get a good deal by having a level premium because your premium stays low and your death benefit stays the same amount. That makes a lot of sense. There's an even better kind of term insurance policy that's a convertible term policy. And what that allows you to do is, as long as you're insured with that policy, you can convert it into something permanent because your temporary insurance is going away someday. Term does not last forever. And if you can turn that into permanent coverage before it's gone, then you can keep it. You know, there was a study done, I think it was the year I was born, in Pennsylvania state. And it discovered that less than 1% of term insurance policies ever pay a death benefit. That leaves 99% of term insurance policies that are basically pure profit to an insurance company. Do you ever see that money again? No, absolutely not, unless your heirs collect the death benefit. And then technically you don't even get to see it then. So having the convertible option to make this temporary insurance permanent is really critical. And that's why I think that's a really good type of term insurance policy. So raise your left hand, that's temporary insurance. The best kind you can buy over there is probably convertible term, unless
Convertible level term. Yeah.
unless you're trying to cover a gap in coverage or something
Sure.
like that.
Yeah, and term insurance when you're young is very inexpensive.
That's the beauty of it. Young family, think young family, tight cash flow maybe, situations like that. You can get the insurance coverage that you really want. And if it's convertible, you can make it permanent later on when
Certainly.
cash flow is not an issue.
Certainly. And like Ben said, it is renting. So although that cost is very low, you're building no equity.
Yes, that's true. So now raise your right hand and say permanent life insurance. That's the other type of life insurance, and there's all kinds of life insurance over here. But there's basically only two types of permanent policies, and that would be whole life or universal life. And so it's really easy to remember because if anything is named with a universal, it's a universal life policy. If anything is a whole life, traditional, permanent, those types of things are whole life policy. So a whole life policy works kind of like buying your house. When you have a mortgage, you're paying off your house. With a whole life insurance policy, you're paying off your life insurance coverage over time.
Yeah, so it actually builds equity, which is called cash value.
Yeah, it's so similar, they almost walk hand in hand. The example of paying off your house and paying off your life insurance. You've got equity in your home, you've got cash value in your life insurance. Eventually, you own the death benefit, and that death benefit's never going away. It's covering you for your whole life. Okay, now the other type is single premium life insurance, and this is like a whole life insurance policy on steroids, where you would plunk down one single sum of money and you have a life insurance policy with a permanent death benefit. The only problem is this: the IRS got a bee in their bonnet in the 80s, and they saw that people were using it to avoid taxes, and so they passed the Technical and Miscellaneous Revenue Act in 1988 and said, oh, if you do that, that's no longer life insurance. It's a modified endowment contract, and we're going to tax it. And so single premium is not as popular as it once was. But we will take a rider of single premium insurance and we'll mix it with whole life so we can get better cash value. We can talk about that another time because we're running short on time. But I want to get to the universal policies because that's the other type of permanent life insurance. A universal life insurance is based on the fact that you put money in to a cash value account, and then money from that cash value is taken out to buy life insurance coverage. Now, what kind of life insurance coverage or policy do you think they might buy to cover your death benefit? Or to provide your death benefit, I should say. Well, they happen to choose a temporary policy, a term insurance. Not only do they choose a term insurance policy, they choose the most expensive type of term insurance policy, renewable term insurance. And so the premium is stair-stepping every year. This looks like a problem, because it's going to get so expensive that your premium's going to have to go up, right? Don't you worry about a thing. Let me see if I can turn myself into a universal life insurance salesman. Don't you worry about a thing. Because your cash value account, we are going to use that money. We're going to promise you an interest rate on it every year. And as your money in that cash value account grows and grows and grows and grows, you won't have to worry about increasing premiums because the money will be there to take care of them. And now you need to read the fine print, because in the fine print it says that if it does not grow enough to cover the premiums, we can bill you for the extra premium. But don't mention that. I would never tell a client that, because what's the chances of that happening? Well, back to the podcast here. The chances of that happening are almost 100% according to the cases we've seen. I hate to break it to you, but your term insurance is probably going to get so expensive that you either have to pay the premium yourself on it or your policy's going to lapse and die. Well, if your premium is like 50% of your death benefit, how long are you going to pay that? So universal life insurance sort of got a black eye. So we need to develop a new flavor. And so variable universal life came out. It says no longer is the insurance company going to credit you an interest rate on your cash value account. We're going to invest that money in the market. And you'll get your return directly from the market. So you can do even better. And that return you get from the market should be able to take care of your increasing cost of term insurance payments. You'll have nothing to worry about. Variable universal life policy owners found out they did have something to worry about when the market returns
Didn't match up.
Hey.
And what has happened with a lot of these too is because universal life was, quote, unbundled insurance, is the premiums were flexible. So if people had a tight month, they might not make the premium or might make a lower premium this month, and that would take out of the cash fund. Well, overall, there became a shortage in there. And in many cases, it's not caught early enough to offset that ever-increasing cost of term insurance, which creates a big problem.
Big problem down the road. And
Down the road.
Usually down the road when you're going to need the insurance the most.
Exactly.
Well, variable universal life left policy owners scratching their heads saying, what happened? We thought we could do better than this. And so the insurance companies came out with yet another flavor of universal life insurance. And that is the IUL that we just mentioned as being really popular here of late. And that stands for an index universal life insurance policy. The problem with this one is that it's basically the same as all the other ULs. It's just a little bit different what they're putting the cash into. This time they're saying it's not in the market, so you are not exposed to market risk. Furthermore, we're going to put a floor in here. Maybe the floor is 2%. You will never earn less than 2% on your cash value account. And we're going to put a cap on it, maybe 12%, so you can never earn more than 12%. Well, anywhere between 2 and 12 sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Especially with what people are getting right now. And so the policy looks pretty appealing. Furthermore, you're not in the market, so you can't have market losses. We're just going to mirror an index, let's say the S&P 500. So they pop in an illustration rate of maybe 8%, because that's somewhere in the middle of the road. They show you those numbers, and they look pretty good. But if you understand where the numbers are coming from and that they're not guaranteed, that leaves you with a few big questions.
Right. And basically what the insurance company is doing here is they're buying options on that index to be able to mirror it like that, which is why they cap the growth. So if it grows better than that, they can take the cream off the top. And with that cream, then they give you a part of your guarantee. But like Ben said, it's not a full guarantee because the cost of insurance can still be taken out of the account. You can actually, your account value actually can go down in negative years because of that.
So what happened here is the problem is that there's an increasing cost of insurance. The solutions they're coming up with is to do different things with the cash value, not to change the cost of insurance. So even the IUL, even though you can't have market loss, even though you have a floor of 2%, even though you may have a cap of 12%, even though you cannot experience market risk, you can still lose money because the cost of insurance, that increasing term, that yearly renewable, or that renewable term, keeps getting more expensive, and the money has to come from somewhere. So they take it out of the cash value account, and when that money's gone, they can bill you for the premiums. If you don't pay the premiums, your policy is worthless. It expires. All the money you went into it was wasted. Unless you die in the meantime. That's pretty much the only way to be guaranteed to get your money out of UL, is die during the life of the policy. Sounds morbid, but that's the truth. So here's the way I like to think about universal life insurance policies. Since the insurance gets to determine the crediting rate with the UL, since the market determines the return with the VUL, since the index determines the return you see on an IUL, I like to think of it as the most expensive type of temporary insurance you could buy with a slot machine attached to it. You know, maybe that illustration comes from having lived a few years in Las Vegas, but it seems to be pretty close to the truth.
Yeah. Whereas whole life on the other side is you're actually building equity.
And we
in that
covered
death
that.
benefit.
It's a lot
guaranteed.
like your house. With the real estate only, you're not exposed to the real estate market risk because it's contractual law. Chances are you may not get as fast of a return as you could in real estate, but you're also not going to experience the losses, and that's back to the tortoise and the hare, which we talked about earlier.
It's a true guarantee, and it keeps all your options on the table, which is so important. So very good. So you can call our office, 702-660-7000, to get a review of your life insurance, or to talk with us about your particular situation, how you can keep more of the money that you make using participating whole life insurance as a vehicle.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to do your life insurance review for you too. If you want me to do it personally, just make sure you mention my name when you send it over or call and ask for me, and I would be happy to do a personal review for you.
That's right. And coming up next week, we have a special interview for you with Vice President of Ohio National Life Insurance Company. His name is Carl Kriunen. And Ohio National Life Insurance is one of the companies that we represent here at Life Benefits. And a piece of trivia about them, Neil Armstrong, yes, the astronaut, sat on their board of directors for a number of years. So tune in next week to Wealth Talks and enjoy that interview with Vice President Carl Kriunen. Have a great week. You are listening to Wealth Talks, where we talk about solutions, money, and other things that create wealth in your life.